RPM, oil pressure, all temps really good. Bolts are good on both, lamps are good on both. Moved engine. Excellent. Goes off. Start. RPM, oil pressure. All temperatures are pretty bolts, lamps.
Welcome everyone. I'm here in Melbourne, Essendon, and it's about lunchtime. We've just dropped a passenger off on a charter job, and I'm going to be returning the aircraft back to Bankstown now. So it's about a couple of hours flight, and I'll bring you along for the ride. Hopefully you find it interesting.
Thames 1, runway 35, clear to land. 35, clear to land, Thames 1.
I'll just get set up for departure, and then I'll come back with some info. Quite a bit of wind today. It's something like 30 knot headwind on runway 35. It was quite severe turbulence on the way in. It wasn't too bad, but it was forecast for severe turbulence. Here's today's flight. We're going to be departing from Essendon down here, tracking up alongside Wangaratta and over Albury, and then Canberra, and up into Bankstown from the west. That's the route. Quickly looking at the weather radar. I don't think we've got any weather on the route. Looks pretty fine. Just some severe turbulence this morning. Looks like that SIGMET's gone, and but I can feel it's still quite gusty and windy here. We'll have a quick look at the airport ATIS here. They've got a digital ATIS here, hotel, and it's 330, 12 to 25 knots, max crosswind 10 knots. I expect severe turbulence on final, moderate turbulence forecast below 5,000. Okay, that looks fine. Essendon Ground, good day, X-ray 62, Diamond DA62, IFR, Essendon to Bankstown. Request clearance.
X-ray 62, Essendon Ground, clear to Bankstown via Melbourne, Dorsal, flight planned route, visual departure, climb to 3,000.
Clear to Bankstown via Melbourne, Dorsal, flight planned route, visual departure, and climb 3,000. And we're on the southern apron, X-ray 62.
X-ray 62.
All right, so let's just double check. Melbourne, Dorsal, and Bankstown, flight planned route. 3,000 is the altitude we've been given. Essendon Ground, X-ray 62 is ready for taxi, and we've received a hotel.
X-ray 62, taxi via Bravo and Papa to holding point Kilo, runway 35 on Papa, cross runway 26, squawk 4341.
Taxi via Bravo, Papa, cross runway 26 to holding point Kilo, runway 35, squawk 4341, X-ray 62. Release the parking brakes, taxi light on, zoom in for the taxi screen, even just clear that so we have the big screen, we can see where we're going. There's Bravo, and let's get moving. So today our decision point is gear up blue line. If we have any issues before that, we'll just re-land, come to a stop, call ATC. Anything after that, we'll continue, and we'll climb out at blue line. We'll make sure we've got full power, posi brake gears up, flaps up. We'll identify dead foot, dead engine, verify, and we'll turn the engine master off. We'll climb out at 96, which is our blue line, at 89, which is our blue line.
Charlie X-ray Hotel, track via Moonee Valley Racecourse, clear for takeoff, make right turn.
And
track via Moonee Valley Racecourse,
we'll follow the heading that's been allocated. We'll do some fault finding. We'll call ATC and aviate first. Essendon Tower, good day, X-ray 62, holding point Kilo, ready.
X-ray 62, Essendon Tower, line up.
Line up, X-ray 62. Okay, we're not clear for takeoff, so we won't put the landing lights on, but we'll get the pumps on. Landing lights and pitot go on together. It'll line up, make sure there's no one coming in. Got one airborne. We're expecting a heading, and we'll turn onto that heading at 500 feet AGL. And pass the departure into the runway.
X-ray 62, turn right heading 010 visual, clear for takeoff.
Turn right heading 010 visual and clear for takeoff X-ray 62. Okay, 010. 010, clear for takeoff. Alright, we've got go around, let's go. Landing lights and pitot heat. Alright, all looks normal. Load is good. T's and P's in the green. 50 cross checked. And load. Positive rate. Gear up. Good amber on. Oh, light level change. Alright, there's the departure from the runway.
Romeo X-ray Whiskey, cleared visual approach, straight in, runway 35.
Obstacles.
Cleared straight in, visual approach, runway 35, Romeo Whiskey, Romeo X-ray Whiskey.
Heading mode. Light level change.
X-ray 62, contact departures 118.9.
Departures 118.9, X-ray 62. Departures X-ray 62, visual departure, Essendon, heading 010, passing 2,200, climbing 3,000.
X-ray 62 identified, climb to 7,000.
Climb 7,000, X-ray 62. We'll run through the checklist now, so we can get our landing and taxi lights off. Fuel pumps 1 and 2 are off. Gears up, flaps up, alternate air, climb power set. So let's have a look. Gear flaps, fuel pumps 1 and 2, climb power set, alternate air landing.
X-ray 62, resume navigation direct to Bogues, climb to 9,000.
Direct Bogues, zone navigation and climb 9,000, X-ray 62. There's 9,000 set, so that'll continue climbing. Zone navigation, direct Bogues. Direct Bogues, enter, nav mode, GPS is green. Okay, well, bit of a bumpy climb. Might get the aircon off now. And just passing 5,000, climbing 9,000. And might come back to you in the cruise once we've levelled off at, or a little bit later at least. Just have a chat about once we've got some smooth air, and just have a chat about some of the for-flight stuff, some of the reports it creates and how we use them. Yeah, we've got a headwind of 20 knots at the moment, so I was hoping for a tailwind all the way back, but let's see what happens. Okay, well, g'day guys. We've just departed Melbourne. We're flying Melbourne back to Sydney. We're empty, no passengers on board.
Bravo Lima Kilo, your motor
Charlie
Charlie just reading at 3,800
So
at
we're
the
just
minute.
on climb. I'll show you some of the info. So you've got, we're climbing at 100 knots. I'm not sure you can see that. Climbing at 100 knots. We're passing 8,800. Climbing up to flight level 130, which means I'll need to put some oxygen on. We've got a fairly strong wind from the side here, 38 knots, which is, 75 kilometres an hour or something from the left. And this is where we see traffic. You can see outside temperature, this will reduce as we get higher and higher. It's now 7 degrees. Our ground speed will increase as we start to get a tailwind as we get higher. Over here, that's our route. We can put a big map on there. See that. And then out the window, you can see it's a nice day here in Melbourne, and we're leaving Melbourne behind. Not sure how much you can see there. And out this side as well. It's beautiful. It's quite a windy day. We've had it was quite turbulent, severe turbulence coming into Melbourne, but it wasn't a big deal. Just sort of bumped us around a little bit as we came down below about 6,000 feet. Anyway, have a good day. It'll be about 2 hours flight back to Sydney today, and hopefully one day I'll see you on board on an air taxi flight. I thought I'd just show you a couple of the features of the aircraft here. So this is called the G1000 avionics suite here, and Couple of things that we can see. We're flying at flight level 130, which means I need to put my oxygen on. I'm going to stay up here for a little while, so I'm going to put some oxygen on. I'll show you a video on that in a minute. You can see here that we've got a 9-knot tailwind now. We've got a true airspeed of 192 knots, and we've got a ground speed of 201 knots, so that's not bad. There's no traffic around us at the moment. If I show you over here, this is our flight plan. So what this shows you here is where we're going. So we've come from our MEN, which is Essendon, and we're flying along this route here, all the way down to Bankstown, which is YSBK. We put a constraint in here at 2,500 feet at a place called Nolan, which then automatically calculates our top of descent here. So you can see we've got a top of descent of 1 hour and 30 minutes, so an hour and a half to go before we start our descent. So it's all pretty easy, and the computers work it all out for us, which is nice. You ever wondered how you'd know how far you can go before you run out of fuel? Well, it's quite handy. The airplane actually tells you on the map. So here's the map showing you my flight today, and you can see I'm flying from basically Melbourne down here up to Sydney up here. And if I zoom out on the map, it starts to put these range rings, and there's a dotted line around here at 3 hours and 50 minutes. And that one is telling you how far I can go, how far I can fly. So it's giving me a 3 hours and 50 minutes of endurance. To basically still have my legal reserves. So basically an amount of fuel that I'm legally required to have as left over in my tank when I land. And the next ring out is showing you how far I can go when I've completely exhausted all of the fuel. So you can see I've taken off from Melbourne with full fuel. I'm using a fairly high power setting, 90% power here. But even at this power setting, it can almost make it to New Zealand, well beyond Tasmania, and well up into Queensland. So not a bad range even at this power setting. What's interesting is that if I back the power off, so if I back the power off the throttle here, and say take it back to maybe 60% power, you can see now we're at about 60% power. I don't know if you noticed, but those rings have gone right out now. So now I can make it beyond New Zealand. So basically by adjusting the power, the computers work out where you'll run out of fuel. And also, look at my endurance now, 6 hours and 10 minutes. So it really makes a big difference what power setting you're using as to how far you can go. I'll increase the power again. You can see it come back in. Pretty cool. There you go. Okay, so what's this tube? Well, once you get over a certain height in a non-pressurized aircraft, the air gets too thin and there's not enough oxygen in the air, and you start getting something called hypoxia. So what you need to do is you need to put an oxygen cannula on, and I'm lucky in my plane I've got oxygen built in. So I basically pull a lever down here. I have a tank which tells you how much oxygen I've got on board, and I've got these ports up the top here where I plug into. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the oxygen on, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. And basically that then lets me breathe oxygen, and it allows me to fly all the way up to 20,000 feet. This thing I can only go up to 18,000 feet, but with a mask I can go all the way up to 20,000 feet. I really don't like putting this thing on. It's not the most comfortable. I've got to take my headset off for a minute. You often miss a radio call while you're putting it on. So what we do is we plug this thing up into the port at the top, and it just plugs in. We pull the oxygen on down here. So we pull it on, and then we fit the oxygen cannula.
over our head. So I'll just take the headset off. You won't be able to hear me for a sec. Okay, there it is. It's on. And I'll just put this one on again. And so I've put the oxygen cannula on. I'm now breathing oxygen. And what happens here is there's actually a thing called an oxysaver, and it has a gauge which I can show you.
41, contact center 133.
Hopefully.
More 15, expect star.
And it says oxysaver, and then it shows you 10, 12.5, 15 and 18, and that's feet. And so you can see that ball sitting up above that at the moment. By turning the knob at the bottom here, I can basically make that go down or up, and I adjust that to my altitude. So I'm sitting, I like to have it a bit above. So I'm at 13,000 feet or flight level 130, so I've got that set there, and that'll now give me oxygen. And you can see that as I breathe, the bag go up and down, and it basically conserves oxygen and uses less than just a continually flowing system. So I wear this now. This will now I wear this for the rest of the flight, and this will make sure my blood oxygen stays nice and high, and I don't feel tired and drowsy. And
contact center 125.2.
Contact center 125.2, X-ray 62. Okay, welcome back. We're in the cruise here. We're at flight level 130, cruising along at ground speed of about 200 knots. Bit of a tail wind, 10 knot tail wind or so. Smooth flying, very nice. And what I thought we would do is have a quick chat about the ForeFlight files that, the files that ForeFlight create, and the useful data that you get to help you with your flight planning and en route stuff. So I've got my screen on here. So what I do is basically put a highlighter on so I can point out what I'm doing here. So this is the flight we're doing now, Essendon to Bankstown today, X-ray 62. We've planned it at flight level 130, and we've got our performance profile here, which is basically saying we're going to climb at 95% power, which is max continuous. We're going to cruise at max continuous, which we're not. We're cruising at a bit less than that, and we're going to descend at 60% power. It then works out your estimated time en route's 2 hours, 2 minutes, distance, the average wind for the flight, time of departure, time of arrival, takeoff weight, landing weight, how much fuel I've got on board at the start, the taxi, how much I need for the flight, how much I've got reserve and contingency, alternate if I've got any. I don't require an alternate today, and so basically how much extra I've got, and how much fuel I'll have when I land. This is my route here, which you can see. I just record my startup time, I record my takeoff time, and what I do here is I then take my takeoff time and I basically calculate from the book value, because these leg times here, like 4 minutes and 7 minutes, this is what the book values of aircraft performance are for those distances at, in the climb or whatever. So it calculates where my top of climb will be, where my top of descent will be, and it basically works out how long each leg will be based on the aircraft performing as per the flight manual. So what I then do is I say, well, if I took off at this time, 0205, and I use the book values, I should be at these points by this time, and I work out the cumulative time. So what then happens is the aircraft performs however it performs on the day, and based on the wind of the day, I get my actual performance, and I also get what the G1000 predicts the next waypoint and all the future waypoints time and fuel remaining will be. So for example, at the moment it's saying Albury, you're going to have 72 gallons remaining. So at Albury, I'm going to have 72 gallons remaining. And you can see here at Albury, the book value said I'd have 69 gallons remaining. So I'm doing a little bit better than that, 72 gallons remaining. So what I would then do is I would write 72. And by the way, I bought this pivot mount, which I really quite like. I can just unclip it and have it down here when I want to use it. Because up here it's a bit hard. You're sort of bouncing around in the turbulence. But down here on your lap, on your net leg, it's much easier. But when you're coming into land and things, you want to have it up here. So it just clicks in. It's awesome. And it's really secure. It connects to the RAM mount. So I was previously using a RAM mount with a full-size iPad. I've now got an iPad mini. I've got the pivot case, and I've got a converter which converts from pivot to RAM, and that seems to work really nicely. It's just really stable here. It's out of the way, and I can just take it off whenever I want to do something which requires a bit more fine motor, like riding without the bumps. So what I say, 72 gallons remaining, so I'd write 72 here, and the G1000 thinks my estimated time of arrival will be 0254. So I'd write 54 here, and I'd compare 54. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So 54 is what the G1000 says, and 53 is what the book value performance would be. So I'm a minute behind the book value, but I'm, that's close enough. But essentially, if it was more than that, I'd be looking at, why is that? So I then look at other things. So I'd say, okay, we're expecting to have a tailwind of 13 knots. What have we got? We've actually got a tailwind of 13 knots. Perfect. I'm expecting ISA plus 10. I've got ISA plus 12. So I normally write these things in as well. And I'll just write 12 plus 12 here. And I write tailwind of 13 knots. My TAS should be 190. And I've got a TAS of 184. So that explains why we might be a minute or so behind. And the reason we've got a TAS of 184 is because we're not using 95% max continuous power. We're using 88% power. And so I usually write that in here as well, so I know that that's what I was using. And so you can see that by keeping this log, you can really identify if the aircraft isn't performing as it should, and you can identify problems much earlier. And so I would keep a log like this. This would be my nav log. I'll just do this.
223 Delta, Melbourne.
Maybe not every waypoint, but every so many waypoints I'll fill this in. And this will remain on record, and it's a record of the flight. I'll then record the landing time once we land and the shutdown time, and that's all pretty straightforward. What also full flight creates for us, it also does some other useful stuff. So I'll skip over this and have a look down here. It gives us the Essendon and Bankstown airport diagrams, which is useful. Down here, it then gives us takeoff and landing performance for this flight, Essendon and Bankstown. So it has my takeoff weight, a bit easier down here actually. It has my takeoff weight, 2,091 kilos. I used runway 35. It gives me the usable length of the runway, 1,503 metres. The slope, runway ground condition, etc. You can see the wind here, it's 350 at 16 knots, so straight down the runway. And I had takeoff flaps, I had a safety factor, and I rotated 78 knots. What's really useful though, for multi-engine, is this one engine in operative, climb speed and rate. So this tells me if you had an engine failure at takeoff, and you climb at your blue line speed of 89 knots, you're going to get on, today, with today's takeoff weight, the fuel on board, everything exactly as per today with the weather, etc., you're going to get 242 feet per minute. the data's there for you, so you know what your climb performance is going to be. And what you find is that with these twins, when they're heavily loaded, in the event of an engine failure, you can still climb, but only just. You might be climbing at maybe 100 feet a minute, 150 feet a minute. So you really can't climb at the required climb performance for a SID. And so you really want to try and stay visual if you can. And if you can, you probably want to also stay within the circling area and climb within the circling area at the airport, so that you're not just climbing out in IMC where you can't see what you're going to be flying into. It also then gives me landing performance. It calculates my landing weight based on the fuel that's been burned. It knows the wind that I'm expecting at Bankstown. We know what runway we're expecting at Bankstown. I have a safety factor. It calculates my VREF for me at 84 knots, and it also then calculates my ground roll and my total distance. Down here, the next section is the weight balance. So it shows me my takeoff weight is within the envelope. It shows me my landing weight is within the envelope, and it shows me that even if I flew hours and hours and ran out of all the fuel, I'd still be within the envelope at my zero fuel weight. It has the people on board, so there's me, just me on board, and the bag, and some de-icing fluid, and so it has my basic empty weight, it has my zero fuel weight,
316, climb level 160.
my ramp weight, my takeoff weight, and my landing weight. Pretty straightforward. And then the last one here is the weather briefing, where it basically shows me you're going to climb up to flight level 130, which is between 140 and 120. Basically this is the wind you're expecting, so en route, so around about 30 knots, 30 knots of wind, and the 2 without a positive means -2 degrees. I'm currently at 1 degree, so thereabouts, and I've got about 30 knots, essentially wind from behind my left quarter here, which is as forecasted. If there was significant weather, cloud, turbulence or icing, that would all show on here. There's nothing today. This shows it in a plan view, so you can see there's my flight in a plan view with the wind, and then it essentially gives you METAR's weather information and notices that you might need to be aware of as well. There's a lot of information there. Anyway, it's a quick overview of the stuff we need to go through. When you're flying charter, which this is a private flight that I'm doing back here today, when you're flying charter, you need to also do quite a bit of paperwork where we log various, all the engine parameters. We log our start of shift time and end of shift and our duty time, and so we make sure we're not working too many hours without breaks and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot more to the paperwork when you're flying commercially, but what I like to do is I like to still basically apply the commercial processes when I'm flying privately, just so that it's the standard process that I do every time I fly. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. It's there's a lot of useful data on ForeFlight, but they're the 4 reports that I use every flight, and that's my nav log and how I fill it out, and yeah, that's the process I run through. We're in Canberra at the moment, and some people ask me, how do you know where the other planes are? How do you know where the other traffic is? So I thought I'd show you that. We have a traffic screen here on the G1000, and basically on this screen it shows you where the other planes are. So you can see that minus 1.0, if I put flight ID on that, flight ID on, you can see that's aircraft Nabair 143. And I can click on that and it'll give me some more information about it. Tell me the ground speed of it, 272 knots, the closing rate. That's the rate at which we're closing in. And it's actually only 1,000 feet below me, so it might be worth looking out and see if we can see that. There it is, I got it. I don't know whether you're going to be able to see that. Anyway, it's pretty cool because we actually get the info on the screen. we get traffic alerts on our G1000, and then ATC also inform us of traffic nearby. So it's not too hard to stay separated from other aircraft. Coming in busy airports like Bankstown, it tends to be kind of traffic everywhere. You've got to really be looking out the window as well as using the traffic screen, because not all aircraft appear on the traffic screen. It depends if they have a transponder and it's in the right mode. So, but most aircraft do, and so by and large you get, you know, pretty much all the aircraft on the screen. You just don't get every single one, so you can't rely on it 100%. Anyway, thought you might like to know that. That's how we know where the other aircraft are. Hey, g'day guys, we're back with you here. We're on descent now, cleared down to 5,000. I've just been told to keep the speed up. We're number one, so we'll just make it a fairly fast descent. We've got smooth air here. It's a beautiful day in Sydney, stunning. Hopefully...
62, cleared direct to Nolan.
Direct Nolan, X-ray 62. That's good. Direct to Nolan. Direct, enter.
Vertical track.
I'm doing a fairly steep descent. Generally I find that for me personally, when there's no other passengers on board, I can make my descents steeper, and I feel it's a safer way to come into Bankstown. You know, the jets can come in quite steep and sort of come into Nolan on a sort of 4-degree descent path. I can't do 4 degrees, that's going to be crazy, but I can do 3 degrees and even a bit higher than 3 degrees, about that sort of 1,000 feet a minute. And I find it doesn't really affect my ears personally. Other people do get affected. But what it means, the reason I want to do it is because it keeps me well above that training area traffic for as long as possible. And if I'm coming into Nolan, which is, you know, about 10 miles from Bankstown, and on a 3+ degree descent path, I'm really staying in controlled airspace for as long as possible, staying away from all those training aircrafts, which I think is probably one of the biggest hazards of this or any flight, is the training area coming in and out of Bankstown traffic. And I showed before how we can see the traffic, but it's, you know, it tends to be quite a lot of traffic, and the traffic tends to sit right on the IFR routes for some reason, sort of, you know, and they just kind of get right in the way. So for me, stay high as long as I can, stay in controlled airspace and have the protection of controlled airspace for as long as I can. And the downside is that you have a steeper descent with, you know, more risk to your ears. But as I said, for me personally, I don't really find it bothers me particularly. Now we're coming through transition. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to put the QNH in. I'm going to start dialing it up. I'll dial up slowly because we're going from 1013 to 1021, so it's going to steepen my descent, and I don't want to do that too rapidly, so I'll just do it a notch or two at a time. I'm also going to be coming through a cloud layer here, an overcast layer, so again, I don't want to be going too fast through that. So I'll just back the power off now. And we're in the green range for speed as we enter the cloud. Like as I said, it's better just to keep this height up. We want to keep our speed up and our height up. There's a lot of traffic, especially on a nice visual day like this. You just get everybody coming out to train. You know, all the training they couldn't do on the rainy days and the cloudy days, they want to do today, obviously, and fair enough. And so I can do what I can to stay high and above it all. It's good to have the full view on here now, just to really see that traffic and look for it both on the screen but also visually out the window. Okay, we're re-entering controlled airspace here. There's always this funny thing where you sort of drop out of controlled airspace and re-enter, so you've really got to have clearance to do that. Otherwise, you've left on descent, you don't have clearance to re-enter. But whenever I'm not given the clearance to re-enter and I ask for it, I feel like I'm frustrating ATC by requesting it. So maybe there's something I'm not aware of where you are. I mean, where you are allowed to re-enter on descent without being told you can re-enter on descent. I'm not sure, but I'd prefer to confirm it.
X-ray 62, you're clear to leave controlled airspace descending. Request good speed, thanks.
Clear to leave on descent, X-ray 62, and we'll keep speed up. So there's probably some other traffic or something that we can actually keep the speed up fairly high here. We're still in controlled airspace here. We'll get the weather radar off now as well. Put back into standby. And we'll keep a good eye out for traffic now. We'll zoom it in. It looks clear. That guy's going away from us, that guy's going away from us. Yeah, so far so good. And then there's always the ones that don't have transponders or don't come up for some reason. And we'll just keep your speed up, we're in smooth air. 193 knots at the moment.
X-ray 62, you're outside controlled airspace control services terminators. VFR aircraft north of you, first one's 2,000, 2 miles north of you at 2,000 feet, and there's another couple behind that one at 2,700 feet, random manoeuvring.
Copy, looking for traffic, X-ray 62. Yeah, so they're a little bit close to us now, so actually...
X-ray 62 traffic, 1 mile north of you, 2,000 feet unverified, tracking east.
Yeah, copy, looking for traffic. We might track direct Bankstown if that's okay.
X-ray 62, yeah, track direct to 2RN, you got the 2RN in sight?
Hey firm, in fact we've got that traffic in sight now, so we'll just continue as planned.
X-ray 62, there is another aircraft in that vicinity, one's at 2,000, one's at 3,200 feet, both tracking to the southeast, unverified.
Copy, looking for the other, X-ray 62.
Project 12.
It's okay now, they're above us. I've got them in sight, we've got the closest one in sight, the other one looks behind us.
Approach, get identified climb.
Alright, we want to go down to 1,500 now, so BS it down. We've got tower ready to go, 132.8. I like to be, another thing I like to do is just be a bit higher than...
X-ray 62, safety alert, traffic 2RN in your 12 o'clock at 2 miles, 1,600 feet unverified, tracking southbound.
Copy, looking X-ray 62. Do you have an altitude?
The aircraft are behind you now, clear.
Okay, I got the 2RN aircraft in sight, X-ray 62.
X-ray 62, roger, identification terminated, call the tower 132.8.
Over to tower 1328, X-ray 62.
Flight 264, you cleared.
You can see how busy it is with traffic, even with those...
Tango Romeo.
Bankstown, target A, X-ray 62, is currently 7 miles to the west, 2,300 on descent, inbound with hotel visual.
X-ray 62, join crosswind runway 29 right, maintain 1,500 feet. Traffic joining downwind from Prospect is a Cherokee.
Join crosswind, runway 29 right, maintain 1,500, looking for traffic, X-ray 62. Cherokee from Prospect. Okay.
Lima Golf, what are you doing, sir?
Lima Golf, we've got airwork photography site just not too far from 2RM.
Might be a good idea to let us know that, given most of our traffic comes that way. There is traffic out to your west at 1,900. At this stage, intentions unknown.
Lima Golf, yeah, we just come out of Sydney airspace.
So I've got this other aircraft here. You see how useful the screen is.
Station at Prospect, second call sign.
We're now at 1,500. Join crosswind.
Just 318, join downwind, runway 29 right, maintain 1,500.
Don't yet have that other aircraft. Same altitude, out that way.
Tango Romeo, runway left, clear touch and go.
What I'll do...
Touch and go, Tango Romeo. 83 Bravo, downwind.
Keep your speed up
83
now.
Bravo, clear visual approach, runway right,
okay, I think I've got it in sight now.
Runway right, number 1, clear visual approach, Tango, 83 Bravo.
X-ray 62, just widen out to your left about 10 degrees and follow the Cherokee that will be crossing your nose left to right.
1 mile.
Copy, widen out. We've got the traffic in sight now, X-ray 62. We're going to be following that traffic. And so it also would make sense now to slow down. So what we might do is bring the gear out a bit early. Otherwise we'll just be catching that aircraft. We're not clear to land. Got our pumps on, pitos still on obviously. Now within flap speed, so let's get that out.
Yeah, the delay won't be available due to multiple traffic on downwind. Runway right, cleared for takeoff.
Runway right, cleared for takeoff, November Romeo Lima.
ABS. Alright, we've slowed us down.
Tango back, clear touch and go.
Got the other aircraft at my 12 o'clock. I'm following a...
Juliet Delta Charlie's downwind. Juliet Delta Charlie, cleared visual
approach.
Bug 1000. Right, number 2, follow the red Cherokee turning final.
You can hear how busy it is on a day like this.
Juliet Delta Charlie.
Makes sense to be a bit wider today as well.
X-ray 62, cleared visual approach, runway right, number 3, follow the Cherokee on late downwind.
Clear visual approach, runway right, following traffic, X-ray 62, traffic in sight.
Far late downwind, touch and go.
There's my traffic.
Far, runway left, clear touch and go.
So what I'm doing, I'm just keeping it wide. I've got traffic here, then I'm going to need to stay behind. Makes sense to slow me down further, so I'm just going to bring that extra stage of flap out now. Got 3 green, no red. Landing flap already. I've still got the autopilot on for now, but I'll bring it off. And I can't go beyond this boundary. So it's basically keeping it as wide as I can.
Juliet Delta Charlie, runway right, cleared to land. Runway right, clear to land, Juliet Delta Charlie.
Because I brought the flap out early, the last stage of flap, it's keeping me slow. I've got traffic straight ahead. Wow, it's busy. We're both turning in for this runway.
Zulu Tango, traffic out to your left is a BK going into November. They're going to pass behind you, main pad, cleared, stop and go.
Got that traffic.
I'm not yet clear to land. I'm waiting for that aircraft to get off the runway.
Bankstown Tower, flight dock 264, 2RN on centre 2000. Received hotel visual. We'd just like to maintain 2000 to a clear of the other inbound traffic.
Come on.
Flight dock 264, stand by. Flight dock 264, just track northbound if you're going to maintain 2000. I'm going to get permission to leave you at 2.
Maintain 2000, track northbound, flight dock 264.
X-ray 62, runway right, clear to land.
Runway right, clear to land, X-ray 62.
Flight dock 264, maintain 2000 feet, track to join crosswind.
Maintain 2000, track to join crosswind, flight dock 264, thanks.
Astra 318, cleared visual approach, runway right, number 1.
Birds.
Clear visual approach, runway right, Astra 318.
Wow, it's busy, huh?
You're back downwind for the option.
Okay, we're off the runway. Thanks, Tango. G'day, X-ray 62 is on Alpha, request taxi to kilo.
X-ray 62, taxi to parking.
Taxi parking, X-ray 62. Alright, pitos off, landing lights off, flaps up, pumps off. See how busy that is coming into Bankstown. It can be quite stressful when you've got a lot of traffic like that and you're getting really late, like landing clearances, really late. I mean, everything's happening really late because there's just so much traffic and trying to manage all that traffic. So you've really got to be, and you've got to be looking visually for all that traffic as well. So it's pretty full on, and you got to make some adjustments. Slow down if you can. Get the gear down, flaps out early. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to land. If I hadn't slowed down, you can see how I only got the landing clearance at about 200 feet. Well, I hope you got something from that. It was a fairly nice, smooth flight back from Melbourne, and thanks for coming along, and we'll see you next time. Just going to park right next to the hangar here and pull it straight in.
Thanks for riding along, guys, and hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.